bloodless deaths, faulty magic, and two picture-perfect love stories. Disney movies are loved by millions, but there's also a lot about them that doesn't add up. Every fan knows that if they pick any Disney film at random and watch it, odds are high that one or both of the main character's parents will die, or already be dead. Whether they spend their time scrapping on the streets like Aladdin, cheerfully singing while scrubbing the floor like Snow White, or coming of age among meerkats and warthogs like Simba, Disney loves its plucky orphans.
So, where you from?
Who cares? I can't go back.
For extra conflict, many of their heroes and heroines end up with a single parent left alive. Sometimes this is done so the remaining parent can support the main character's dreams and ambitions like Belle's dad does in Beauty and the Beast. It's also done to provide someone to rebel against, a role Ariel's dad, King Triton, fills in The Little Mermaid. It's rare, but this trope can even be played for humor, like Kuzco in The Emperor's New Groove, who is spoiled by his royal advisors with toys after being orphaned as a baby. For an extra touch of angst, some heroes, like Bambi or Simba, are forced to witness one of their parents' bloody deaths with their own two eyes. But in some of these stories, the parental death is utterly unnecessary and completely dumb. A hero's journey could easily kick off without memories of their dead mom to push them into it. And some heroes and heroines, like Aurora and Sleeping Beauty, even get to keep both parents. Frankly, it's a little ridiculous that so many of Disney's movies kill the parents off. In terms of major plot holes in Disney films, it's best to not think too hard about how certain elements are introduced and then discarded. If you focus on them, these empty twists will leave you wondering what the heck is going on, and why they were introduced only to be ignored for the rest of the movie. Consider Pleasure Island, where Pinocchio goes to goof off with a group of delinquents, a move that involves drinking and smoking. Despite partaking in these illicit behaviors, the puppet escapes his fate and avoids being permanently turned into a donkey. The boys he's with, though, not so lucky.
What's going on?
And then Pinocchio never brings them up again, never tells Geppetto, and never spearheads their rescue. The boys are donkeys forever, from then on, and since Pinocchio barely learns his lesson from this encounter, it leads us to wonder what the point of this adventure really was. While most Disney films avoid such extraneous plot developments, it's hard to ignore the fact that there are also plenty of movies with interludes that detract from our central heroes. For instance, the song I Wanna Be Like You from The Jungle Book is a lot of fun. But by singing it, King Louie eats a lot of minutes from the film that could have been spent with Mowgli's wolf family. That said, for every failed ability to balance a narrative, there's at least a great song or a breathless chase scene to fill that gap.
How about that, Mr. Doubting Mustafa?
The fact that there are so many talking animals in Disney films can definitely leave the audience with a bad taste in their mouth. This is especially true if the movies in question don't follow Nemo's credo of fish are friends, not food, and show off the character's less than vegan eating habits. When Ariel enters Eric's palace in The Little Mermaid, her dear friend Sebastian is nearly cooked and eaten, while she awkwardly waits to have supper with her hosts. That implies that Eric's chefs have a propensity for cooking seafood, which begs the question, how many of Ariel's friends have ended up in his belly? It's a silly question, and it's also the sort of thing that the writers might have avoided with a reworked final script. But the silliness doesn't stop there. How about those prancing zebras, birds, and other animals who more than likely end up as food for Simba's family? And don't think too hard about the social hierarchy in Zootopia. Just what are those alpha animals eating anyway? While this might be a dumb thing, it's still a notion that could be easily explained away with a little more acknowledgement from the writers. There's nothing Disney's animated films like more than a good romance. Disney's best and worst movies alike tend to have that moment where our central couple tumbles head over heels for one another, and then quickly turns their lives into a topsy-turvy mess. But the trouble with these frequent flights of romantic fancy is that there are only so many ways two people can get together. The vast majority of Disney couples are formed via that old-fashioned storytelling trope, the meet-cute. Anita and Roger from 101 Dalmatians get tangled up in their dog's leashes, while Prince Philip finds Aurora singing in the woods as she's looking for romance. At their core, most Disney pairings are just two people who accidentally bump into each other. The meet-cute is applied so frequently to Disney's romantic connections that it's become ridiculously predictable.
What are you supposed to do? Kill Mufasa?
Precisely.
Another classic Disney trope is when evil characters die in quite predictable ways. When it's time for wickedness to be dispatched in a film, even the best of Disney's villain squad has to die in a manner that's bloodless, but still scary enough to give little kids nightmares. Think of Gaston tumbling to his death, Captain Hook being gulped down by a crocodile, or Maleficent taking a sword to the chest while she's in dragon form. Disney loves to fling its villains to their death from cliff tops, which leaves plenty of room for bodies to be recovered. But every single hero who accepts their happy ending without being sure they've seen a body is just plain stupid. Admittedly, it's a simple enough storytelling solution, even if it makes everyone look somewhat unintelligent. It's violent, but not PG-level violent, giving the villains a fate deadly enough to satisfy the audience without endangering those sweet family dollars. For decades, almost every animated Disney movie ended with a wedding of some sort. Unless the movie is about children or baby animals, happiness for the film's central couple usually involves running toward the bliss of a shared future. Even Bambi ends with the prince of the forest becoming its king, claiming a mate and having children. It's predictable and, in some cases, predictably silly. If you just spent months in a coma, dancing around with your true love probably feels like an enormous burden. When your dearest friends just helped your evil stepmother die and now you own a chateau, who has time to plan their nuptials? But it's a Disney movie, and Disney films mean true love and happily ever after, complete with a wedding.
I choose you.
Thankfully, there's been more room for creativity in more recent movies. Moana becomes a wayfaring adventurer instead of a mother, for example, and Merida of Brave ends up mending her family back together instead of marrying. Magic is also problematic in Disney films. When villains die, their deaths usually happen despite the magic they wield, which is pretty ludicrous. There's almost always a magical system in place that makes evil characters seem so mighty, so unconquerable, that their deaths simply make no sense. Sometimes, Disney puts thought into the ways its most magical characters meet their fates. Dr. Facilier's death in The Princess and the Frog was fitting and creepy, and it takes all three fairies and Philip's might to kill Maleficent. But when Snow White's evil dies by falling off a mountain after being struck by lightning, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Is she not mightier than such a fate? Disney's villains often die in such weak ways that make you wonder whether they were really that powerful in the first place. Disney's approach to magic works best when it's treated like Tinkerbell's existence in Peter Pan. Sometimes it is the way it is works perfectly as an explanation.
Let's make some magic!
Of course, some things can't be explained away by magic, like youthful fears and rebellion. When the going gets tough, even the toughest Disney hero gets going, but instead of taking on their problems head-on, they tend to run away. It's an effective narrative trick that easily adds drama into any motion picture, but it's also incredibly predictable. Usually, it's an excuse for orphaned or threatened characters to start a new life in an adopted family. Whether it's Simba running from his father's death to be raised by Timon and Pumbaa, or Snow White finding support amongst the seven dwarves, Disney protagonists just seem hardwired to run before they learn to stand up and fight. The problem is, it's happened more times than anyone can count in Disney movies. While it definitely works as a boon to the film's supporting cast and allows the protagonists to mature with a simple montage, it might be interesting to see some characters face the music instead of running off. In most Disney films, characters tend to break out in song at the drop of a hat, which is admittedly pretty ridiculous. You can argue that this fits in with the Broadway feeling of the studio's many animated films, but no one in these films ever questions why this happens, or how everyone knows the words to every song. And then the choreography kicks in, pulling even the most ham-footed characters into a big dance number. Whether it's dinner utensils doing the can-can, or lions and ostriches lining up to add a splash in Simba's Just Can't Wait to Be King, most Disney movies feature characters dancing and singing as if there's something in the air. Naturally, this isn't awful. Fans of Disney films expect this, and they want to leave the movie theater singing and cheering along with their favorite characters. But it is kind of dumb if you really sit and think about why these folks would suddenly express their emotions aloud in song. But hey, people who really love animated films are happy to overlook the silliness of it all in exchange for the wonderful memories that Disney songs conjure up. Magic can warp feelings, change dresses, and put villains on ice for good. In short, it tends to cement over some of the biggest head-scratchers in the Disney universe. But even with magic involved with most Disney movie plots, there are some major logic gaps that happen every once in a while that make you wonder what on earth the characters are thinking when they're confronted by something wholeheartedly shocking. If you think too long and hard about these instances, the movies will leave you flummoxed by the main character's reactions. Take Beauty and the Beast. In Belle's boring hometown, she's surrounded by inanimate objects that don't have minds of their own, like her beloved books or her father's inventions. But when she reaches the Beast's castle, she hardly blinks when confronted by singing candlesticks, motherly teapots, and annoying mantelpiece clocks. In Mulan's world, animals don't talk and spirit guides don't wander much among the living, so why isn't she shocked by the sudden appearance of Mushu? To be fair, Disney movies tend to avoid this logic question by making talking animals with human sensibilities completely logical parts of each story's universe, like Cinderella's talking mice, for instance. But in other films like Mulan and Beauty and the Beast, their existence should cause a higher level of shock.